So I think next up we've got Peter Marshman, and he will be talking about coding for climate action. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the STACS Virtual Festival, Peter. It's really, really good to have you tonight.
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks so much for having me. It's good.
Oh, great. I think this is your first STACS Virtual Festival. Am I right, Peter?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I wonder whether you would like to tell us a bit more about you and your background before we go into the talk and climate action.
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm previously a head of computer science and assistant head teacher for secondary school for about 20 years. But now, in the last year and a half, I've set up a charity, and I also work half the week with BCS as a secondary sector lead. So unfortunately, I haven't got rid of all my A-level classes, but I'm still teaching, still in the classroom. But most of my work now is around digital, which is a charity that I founded. That I wanted to just share with you today. Just everything we do is completely free. Just to just share with you some of those things.
That sounds great, Peter. So you're really busy man, it sounds. You're half the week in the classroom and then the other half with the charity Digital. You mentioned that's great work. Thank you very much. And climate action, definitely a topic that I personally am very interested to hear about, especially with our responsibility for learning for sustainability and how it's sometimes a bit difficult to put it into our lessons. Right. So before we move on into your actual talk, Peter, just a wee reminder for the audience, if you have a question, just pop it in the comments in YouTube, and then we'll pick it up at the end, and hopefully Peter will be able to answer most of them or all of them. Thank you, Peter. Over to you now.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, so hi everyone. It's a bit of a confusing charity name. So it's digital, so DigiAll, and our website is www.digital.charity. What I wanted to focus on today was to share with you two really key things. One of them is a number of units of work we've written for primary and secondary alongside Amazon, which is called Coding for Climate Action. And then the second thing I want to share with you was our grants program. Now, they're not directly related, so our grants are available for any sort of computing science, coding, STEM activity. And towards the end of this presentation, I'll share with you how your school can access £400, £800 or £1,200 through our grants programs, which are funded through the EU. So that'll be hopefully a useful thing to share with you as well. So just a little bit about the charity, because we are really new and you might not have heard of us before. We're a registered UK charity. We are home of EU Code Week in the UK. So I'm the Code Week ambassador, which means I get the pleasure of going to Brussels a number of times a year and hearing from all the great work from all of the European code ambassadors, which is really great for me because I get to really find out the best practice, things are working across Europe, and try to see if we can bring some of those ideas back to the UK as well. My background is all around engaging girls in computer science. I was very lucky to be at a school that had the highest uptake of girls for GCSE and A level for 4 years. As a state school, not as a private school, but as a state school. And in the last 2 years, we've just reached 200,000 young people at the charity. It's a bit of a benchmark for us. And a lot of that has been through this particular program called Coding for Climate Action. Just a couple of things to talk to you about as well on the website, which is digital.charity with 2 L's. We also have professional development as well. And we have resources that are all free to download, free to access online training. So there's basically, you can go and browse and have a look around. But what I wanted to focus on was coding for climate action. So obviously, climate action is a big kind of focus, a big topic of real importance to young people. And what we've decided to do is to create two things, not only a scheme of work, but also an hour of code activity. So if you want to just kind of dip your toe in the water, you can do an hour of code activity. If you want to go full in, we have a 7-lesson unit of work for sort of P6, P7 pupils, or you can, we also have a secondary one as well for sort of more S1, but you could use it of S2 students as well. So sort of, you know, all the way from 9 to 12 years old, really. We've got a unit of work that's accessible and some hour of code activities as well. We decided to focus on the microbit just because part of what we do at charity is getting young people active and moving around with technology. So everything that we design or develop is with the intention of children kind of coding in and exploring out. So they will spend part of we work in communities as well as schools, but they can spend part of the time in school or in their local youth space coding, but then going outside and actually using and prototyping and testing the technology as well. Just to share with you, I think really focusing on the photos here really. So this is really just to share with you that both our primary and secondary resources have been piloted in over 50 schools. So the resources went out for full launch to the whole of the UK in February. But prior to that, we spent a good sort of 6 months piloting the resources in 50 schools, getting lots of feedback, and you can see some of the young people working on them here. So the resources are really well tested. We like to think we've had lots of feedback, lots of changes to it, adapting resources in different formats to meet different classrooms. So it's hopefully not something that's untested and you dive in and feel disappointed with. Hopefully it's something you'll find useful. Some pictures here on the right hand side from the secondary resource. So there's a young lady there on the right hand side that's holding a microbit in the air, and that's because one of the activities in the secondary resource is actually to mimic the microbit being on a buoy in the ocean and measuring wave height. So she's using the accelerometer to measure wave height up and down, and depending on the movement of the y-axis of the microbit, on 4 or 5 occasions will send an alarm to another microbit. So all of the activities are around building an early warning system, and they can choose to do one for either earthquakes, floods, wildfires, or droughts. They're the 4. So they can shake the microbit, or they can have 3 microbits, and if they all shake, then it's a representation of epicenter activity. For an earthquake, they can move it up and down and calculate using the data logger in the microbit. For wave movement, they can use the heat sensor for wildfires, and they can use the light sensor for detecting droughts. But the whole premise behind the resources is effectively radio transmitting that one microbit has detected using the sensors a potential natural hazard, and it sends a message to another microbit that then displays a warning message. And in the activities, we also go into designing accessible warning messages. So looking at hearing impaired, visually impaired. We look at children with autism or adults with autism. So we look at all of those. We look at all of those different approaches. So autistic children, autistic adults, hearing and visually impaired. We also have weaved the PRIM pedagogy through the resources. So predict, run, investigate, modify, make, which you may have heard from, I'm sure, from Sue's sentence before. So all of our activities are around using the pedagogy for children learning to code, and that's threaded throughout the materials. It's probably of less relevance, but if you do use or dip into any of the Teach Computing materials, we have actually designed it so you can take out the year 5 or year 7 unit on physical computing and drop in something like this, just a little bit more creative in that aspect, and you can drop it straight into that curriculum. But likewise, you can embed it into any custom curriculum you've got. Within the activities, there are careers links, so looking at all sorts of activities, especially with looking at the skills parts of being creative, staying positive, aiming high, leadership, and teamwork. I'm not going to read these out. Obviously, you'll have access to these slides in case you want to dive in a little bit further, but we focus on all of the programming skills on the left-hand side, the control structures in the middle, and the algorithms on the right, and they're threaded through the resources. So like I say, there are 7 lesson sequence or 6 lesson sequence of a unit of work. Everything starts off with a phenomenon. I can never say that word. So we start off with a phenomenon, and then we break that down individual learning objectives, and we look at the discipline of computing and science education. So you'll find the primary resources very much across curricula, between computing and science. So there's elements of both in there weaved in. Here's just a sample of how the unit of work progresses. So we start off with define the problem. We then move on to analysing solutions. So they look at existing real life early warning systems, also in developing countries. We then look at them building an early warning system, like an example. They then go through to actually design their own early warning system to solve a local problem with a partner. And then they go through kind of a presentation piece back as well. So we've got a whole kind of project-based learning feel through the projects as well. Again, I mentioned about teach computing, may or may not be completely relevant. You may have your own bespoke curriculum or use something completely different, but there is a mapping there if that is helpful, but I won't dwell on that for too long. We've also, in every single lesson, I highlighted the computational thinking. If you look at the top, computational spelt wrong, computational. But it's meant to say computational thinking. So we've linked the key 5 elements of that within each of the lessons, so you can have a focus on those particular problem solving skills as well. We have like a kind of a pre and a post survey. It's just like 4 or 5 questions for the pupils. If they complete that, then, and just gives us great feedback where we can keep adjusting the resources, then your school will receive a LEED School Code for Climate Action certificate. That is also provide badges for teachers who want to go through our Train the Trainer program if you're interested in using our training materials to work with others. Something else to mention is all of our training materials. We did them live originally in our immediate launch, but they are all recorded and available on our website, and also in the resource file that I'll share with you in a moment. So if you wanted to say, look at lesson 3 and you're thinking, I'm not totally sure what I do at this part, you can just go to recorded lesson and you can scroll through the lesson as to where you're going to get to. So it's there for anyone who wants to get started, anyone who's quite confident, through to anyone who just wants to look at some of the extension exercises as well. The key features really with using a microbit is the use of data logging. So that's really important through that unit. We do a lot of radio transmission because, of course, we're sensing a hazard, and then we are sending a message to another microbit to display a warning message or sound a warning message. And obviously, this is all based around real world contexts. So we have, for example, one of the examples is the Grillo system that is used, which is a real life system used where there are multiple sensors to detect the possibility of an earthquake. So we kind of relate to those and abstract those back. Here's a look at some of the resources. So this primary at the top left, where they do some scientific experiments around precipitation and that type of thing. You can see at the top middle, they look at a tolerance for their microbit in the ocean on a wave. So they might decide that actually above that level is where the warning's going to sound. So they use data logging to set tolerances. In a secondary resource, we start off with block-based coding. We transition into MicroPython. In the primary resource, we stick with just a block-based coding altogether. Yeah, so that gives you a look into some of the resources. I don't think I can post this in the comments. I'm going to put this in the private chat. If someone could move that over, that'd be great. The link I've just given you gives you access to all the materials. They're free to use. They're in a Google Drive. So every time we make an update, it will be real time. And that website is amazonfutureengineer.co.uk/C4CA. If you want to access that. Thank you very much for dropping that in. We also have, this is so efficient. This is wonderful. We also have an hour of code resource. So if you just want to dip your toe in the water, or you want to take part in Hour of Code Week, or you want to take part in Code Week, it's entirely up to you. We have a primary one that focuses on the use of detecting earthquakes with accelerometer, and a secondary one which focuses on basically coastal flooding. So it's where we've kind of compressed those lessons into a little kind of edit activity where they can get to a solution quite quickly, but make their own small modifications. So those RF code resources are in the folders where that link's just been shared with you. So you might find you want to get involved in that or the whole unit of work. The feedback from the pilot we've had, these are the things that have come out of it. So it's really increased the engagement of girls just through the context. And obviously we've been threading in the fuller and prim pedagogic approaches as well, which has really helped. There's lots of pair programming opportunities because of they're coding 2 microbits to communicate with each other. Oh, great question, Anna. In terms of the hardware, for the primary, you just need some alligator clips. That's pretty much it. And 2 microbits. And for secondary as well, you just need 2 microbits. So we've actually designed it so that schools don't need to buy anything else on top of the resources that they've got. However, saying that, if you're someone that wants to take it a little bit further than that, I'm just going to post this link in the chat. We have a whole set of resources that are kind of designed for classroom use, but could be in extracurricular activities. I've just posted, hopefully that'll come through to you in the chat, where with just paying an extra up to £4 per student, they can design a wind turbine, a solar powered Llama-Gotchi, a plant partner, or a particle tracker. So if you want to go further and connect more things to your microbit, we already have those resources available, which we developed as a response of schools saying, you know, we've done code of climate action, where can we go next? But there is that additional cost associated to it. In terms of, this is some of the feedback from the student survey. Again, you can look through this in your own time, but it's been largely positive. There are areas we'd like to develop as well that we're continuing to look at as we get more and more data through. I think we've had well over 3,700 responses, which is pretty good for what we're expecting, and just to get a good feel of how that's going. Again, there's some stuff about rating unit of work from the teachers as well that have gone through the unit. And what my role has always been, both in my EU role and UK role at BCS, is all around sort of expertise in engaging girls in computing. So we've used this kind of Venn diagram of activities to ensure we can try and, you know, really engage girls in code of climate action. So that's just a little bit of an example there. And what I want to talk to you about now is also our grants program. So you can access our grants program. I should have put all these links on the slides. I'm sorry. Apologies, you're going to get a whole load of links. Here's another link. So we have a grants program that is available to any charity or school in the UK. It's digital.charity/meet and code, and the funding window has already opened. We've already distributed 45 sets of grants already. We've only been open sort of a week or two. And what your school can do is submit a request for either £400 for 4 hours of activity, £800 for 8 hours of activity, or £1,200 for 12 hours of activity. And these activities could be, for example, you want to do coding for climate action, you need some microbits. It could be you want to run an after-school code club, but you need some funding to support the teacher running it, or to support some of the materials, or you want to bring an external agency to run some of your coding clubs. Well, you can use it for a drop-down day. You can use it for a school trip that's focused around computing. Really, it's completely endless. The only thing that you do need is you do need to have access to a charity number. So the majority of schools that apply have the charity number. If your school doesn't have a charity number, your parent-teacher association or equivalent will have one. Or you can just reach out to a local charity that your school works with, and you just need to put their charity number on the form. It's just because we have to pay a charity bank account. They can transfer the funds to you. The application can be made by you, but as per the EU regulations, we need to send the funds to a charity, to an NPO. So we had a huge take up on this last year. Obviously, we've only been running 2 years. The EU team have selected us to run it again this year, and we've got double the amount of grants to give out. So if you are interested in accessing those grants, please do submit a request. On that website, there is a link to Donna's email address. So Donna Robertson, she looks after this program within the digital team. Her email address is at the bottom of the page. So if you want any further advice, you can come to me, but you can go straight to Donna and she'll give you the answer directly if you're interested in those grants. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of a feel. Do have a look through the Code of Climate Action resources. On there, for example, you can see the lesson plans, you can see the slides, you can see the extended activities as well. So they're all free for you to use and access. Of course, if you do download the materials, we are constantly updating them, which is what we want to continue to do. So I would suggest you just download the latest copy or just run it straight from the Google Drive itself, so that your pupils and students have access to the latest materials as we continue to get the feedback. So I will stop there in case there's any questions that you would like to ask.
Thank you, Peter. It is great, and it sounds like a very empowering initiative that you are leading with your charity just now. It's great to hear about engaging girls in computing science and really learners from all backgrounds, as it sounds to me from the talk that you had. And it's great to hear about also including accessibility and talking about natural disasters and natural hazards, as you put in the talk, and outdoor learning as well. And I personally, I am curious to find out if you had any, how did the pilot schools found the outdoor learning? Did they all do it? And how easy is it to mix and match these lessons? You mentioned 6 to 7 lessons. It sounds great also to hear about the block to text and the prim, getting the kids to read the code first and understanding those blocks. And then you take them out. And I know there are other resources for microbit as well. So I don't know if you have any comments. Outdoor part at the end from your pilot schools, and then I'll get some of the questions from the chat.
Yeah, sure. So with our pilot schools, we've had a real mix. So we've had from schools where we've actually had ambassadors to go in and run some of the lessons with, because it's the first time they've used a microbit, so they haven't used it at all. Mm-hmm. So we have a number of volunteers and ambassadors around the UK that we use. We've had schools where the teacher's been absolutely fine with the content and has just wanted the content to deliver it, and used our recorded lessons, which are in the resource pack on the Amazon website, and have used that to fill it in. So it's just been different for every school. Mm-hmm. I think the overall feedback is we asked some questions around like the careers element that hasn't really come out. And that wasn't really our focus, but it was something we were interested in. So the idea of engineering, digital skills, sustainability for primary, we've maybe missed a part of that. So we're looking at how we can build more careers content as part of it. But what has come out is they've really enjoyed the hands-on coding activity and having some context to it. I think one of the things they've really enjoyed is working in pairs where, you know, they're kind of coding a sensor microbit together to send a message to another microbit. And it's the fact they've been able to test it together. So that's been one of the, I think, the highlights that come out of it. But in open honesty, when we first started, there were all sorts of things about some of the tiny links we provided in the slides that some of the schools couldn't use. So a lot of it has been really just working around some of the smaller elements of the resources and just making it accessible to everyone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It sounds like great comments are coming in the chat as well about microbits and about sustainability and and people are looking in Scotland on how to integrate these resources as well. And the context, the importance of the context, absolutely. It makes it all very real. And it sounds like the next step is adding on to those careers. Okay, I've got the skills, I've got the context, this all matters to me. How do I turn this into a lifelong commitment, sort of? Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. And we hope to see you again at another STACS event in the future.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks so much for having me. Cheers. Have a good evening.